Today, we have an interesting conversation around automation at Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. Um, I do not know how many of you know this, but recently SAP combined all the spend management category and solutions that SAP has, for example, Ariba, Fieldglass, Concur, Taulia, and the business network into one single line of business for SAP. And we have Ashwani Narang, who heads this entire business for SAP India subcontinent. Can I invite you, Ashwani, to please join us on stage? He's the Vice President for the ISBN business for SAP subcontinent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, you're doing a great job, man.
Thank you. Can I invite Praveen Shikande? He's the Chief Digital and Information Officer for Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail business. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Wait, I have this. Is this audible? Thank you. Thanks, Mukesh. Sir, please.
Yep.
This side? All right. Perfect. Thank you very much, Mukesh. 12 and a half years working with Indus. Not easy. I think it's a commendable job done, probably the way he has handled it. But I believe the community is brilliant. The whole idea, of course, is how can we get to meet each other, create those connections, and I think, like Mukesh said, one of the best things probably is to understand what other companies are doing. So I think on that note, we wanted to do a fireside with you and probably ask a few questions. Praveen, thank you very much for coming in. The whole idea is, maybe introduce us, what do you do at ABFRL?
Sure.
And another question would be, I think you've gone through a transformation on the IT side of it. You've done a journey on S4,
Right.
And since we are talking about the reimbursement part of it, we are talking about Concur as well. That's the business also I lead. So we wanted to understand how did you do this, what were the challenges which were faced, and then a little delve into deeper, why did you choose Concur, at least from a travel and expense side of it.
Sure. Thanks, Ray. So just to introduce Aditya Birla Fashion, I think most people may not have known what is Aditya Birla Fashion, but I'm sure our brands are well known. I see mostly a lot of men in the room. So the brands like Louis Philippe, Van Heusen, Alan Solly, Peter England, they are all our brands. Also the large retail chain Pantaloons, and recently we have ventured into the ethnic wear business with partnerships with many designers like Sabyasachi and Shantanu Nikhil, Masaba Gupta, and also launched some of our brands, like Tarantiarani, we have launched a brand called Taswa. And also done an acquisition of a company called TCNS, which does the very strong on the women's wear brands like W and Aurelia, I think very popular. So that's about ABFRL. I had the IT and digital at ABFRL, been there now for about 5 years. And interesting 5 years, as I'm sure a lot of other businesses also went through the whole COVID phase and the advent of digital technology and it becoming mainstay across and having a big influence on business. In our case, obviously, it was much more than maybe some of the other businesses. Retail, in some ways, you could very well say, was the first sector to be digitalized. With Amazon doing what they did. And while we were shielded from it for many years, because the Indian market was still very much an offline market, but the last few years saw that big change, especially during COVID when all stores were shut and our only way of doing business was online. And that drove a lot of the digital transformation that went through in the organization. And so a couple of things, when it comes to SAP, we run our entire core on SAP. So we have about 18 factories, our entire supply chain. In retail business, supply chain is very crucial. So almost about 20, 25 warehouses, with a very high degree of turnover, handling both store deliveries, material movement to stores, as well as for e-commerce, which is literally single item shipments and so on. So it's a fairly complex supply chain. And with that, what the decision we took about 5 years back was that we would transform our core of SAP, and clearly that had two tracks. I mean, I'm sure all of you have gone through or are going through that S4 HANA transformation, which SAP has pushed us everybody to go to, and so we had to do that, and we had the other problem was that we were sitting with 4 instances of SAP in an organization like that, partly because of acquisitions and nature of different businesses. There was one brand retail business, one department store business, which had separate implementations of SAP products. One was IS retail, one was AFS, and then we had an S4 retail. Uh, and so consolidating that was one major part of that track. And obviously projects like those don't happen quickly, they take a long time. But I mean, business being where it was in the pressures, we could not hold up the front end, transforming the front end digitally till we got that core done, right? So we had to work on two tracks. One was focus on the core, drive that as a long-term transformation project, and then look at ways that we could get the edge digitalized faster and get that working for the users or customers much more effectively with the latest technology. So that's how what we decided is on the procure to pay side, we had a variety of products. I mean, that's expenses, invoice management, invoice processing, accounts payable. All these were multiple different systems on the legacy. So in our roadmap, we decided while we'll move the core to S4 HANA, we will first go ahead with changing the edge, and we decided to go ahead with Concur as another product. I think it's a partnership of SAP called OpenText, right? So those are the tools we chose that we would transform it, and that would integrate back into the core. So today where we are is that in fact our S4 HANA journey consolidation of 3 instances went live this July. It is a very almost 18-month project. But parallelly, the benefit of the front end, we were able to get almost 3 years back when we went live with Concur. In fact, during COVID, we went live with Concur as well as with OpenText, a few months later. And that helped bring a common journey on the procure to pay cycle, particularly the expense processing and invoice processing. So that's broadly the approach we took. Now, Concur for us was rolled out. So we have almost close to about 15,000 corporate employees in the company. Obviously, travel is a large spend, and this was handled in a traditional way, paper way. So we moved that all to Concur. And that was one major benefit for employees. I mean, we were able to go live in a few months' time. And for employees, the benefit of having an app which they could put their expenses in, no need to go and send something and then get it scanned and so on. All those pains were, went away. And during that phase when COVID was there and of course travel was very low, we got the implementation done so that when things came back to normal, the system was ready to scale. And we've seen that scale rapidly over the last year and a half and scale very successfully.
That sounds very interesting, and I can tell you my first shirt in the corporate was from Vanusan.
Right.
So thank you for the brand, but now my wife loves Masaba, so
Okay.
that's even better.
Glad to hear that.
But then I totally loved the way you said that we implemented it during COVID. I think that was the time a lot of us felt the pressure of not being connected with our business partners or vendors, and I think this is where a lot of customers started their own journey on digital transformation. So I want to ask you now, since you said it was done in quite a span of time, it was pretty quick, and there are 15,000 employees now probably joining the bandwagon using Concur in their day-to-day life. And I personally love the Concur app because it's very consumerized. So I wanted to ask you, since you implemented it, what kind of benefits did you get, tangible, intangible, and what is important also to know in today's context is, are we doing good in the post-sales, on the post-sales sides of it? Are we taking care of you if there are issues which are happening? How is that experience?
Right. So to take your first question, see clearly employee expenses is one area where the challenge becomes timeliness of submission of claims, right? Employees in businesses where there's a lot of travel, employees tend to bunch it all up and they forget to put it or whatever, they lose bills and so on, which delays the whole cycle. So what Kangas really helped us is done away with any excuses for delay in expense submission and a timely view to the business in terms of what the spend on various heads of expenses, employee expenses is. So finance has been very happy with the reporting that they get out of the system, and employees are again very happy with the convenience of being able to do this easily and as against an earlier process which required them to do it manually, send documents somewhere, get them scanned, and so on. So that has been a big benefit, both in terms of experience purely. And of course, linked to that is the cost control, because now, because there's better visibility and timely visibility to the spend, the ability to control spend, especially in tough times, as were, let's say, during COVID, it helps to have a system which gives you that timely view and the manager's immediate knowledge of what their direct reports are spending and so on, and helps to control costs. I think those are two large benefits that we've seen. One other thing we did, which was I would say, a innovative implementation when it came to Concur, and was, see, we have almost about 2,000 stores across all our brands. And so stores have petty cash expenses. Now, the petty cash expense again was a very painful process across 2,000 stores where the employee turnover is usually very high. Managers keep changing, moving out. So how do you keep track of those expenses on a timely manner and make it again simple for the store staff to do their expense claim? So we decided to roll Concur out there, and we had a choice between doing the open text way or the Concur way. And we decided that for that use case, Concur was far better because the store employees were already using Concur for their personal expenses. This just added on one more expense claim with a different account where they could submit all their store expenses. And that really worked very well. I mean, it took us almost 6 months to get people trained and roll it out across all 2,000 stores. But again, once it's done, it has been very seamless with the advantages of getting timely visibility to all petty cash expenses that are happening in stores available at the central retail function or the finance function.
That's amazing. So and I believe you got me into a segue of probably my next question, and this is one of the most innovative cases you could think of, and we could deliver as a company back to you globally. And since you talked about those 2,000 stores, I think nobody thought Concur can be used as a product which can probably help handling the petty caches for those employees. And the thought process was brilliant in saying that they are already using it for their personal expense, so why not extend it for petty cash for all those people? And I believe once you have done this, this is one of its form globally for SAP in more than 50,000 customers. So kudos to you. Thank you very much for delivering that use case back to us. I think this is, my question would then be, what exactly did you achieve out of it? And how has been the experience so far? Again, when you're doing this, are you planning to add more stores, for example, in future if they come in, and is this going to be your modus operandi going ahead?
So benefits, again, I would say what the benefits came when it was rolled out for employees, same extended. Timely submission of claims, timely visibility to spend that's happening at the store. Otherwise, again, petty cash settlement going on and on, almost like a running account, and people changing in between, and you're not being able to keep track. Here, because the ID is linked to the store manager ID, it's very easy to make sure that before the store manager changes, they submit all their, settle their petty cash and move out. So timeliness on getting expense claim and user experience. I mean, again, for the store manager, this used to be a chore. So now that's no longer the case. They can as easily deal with their petty cash claims as they do with their travel claims. Sorry, coming to your second question. So this is part of our now standard stack, so to say, when we open a new store, right? So from day one,
Oh, wow.
along with our point of sale system, There are certain process management systems that go into every store. Concur is
extend
also
your
rolled
option.
out, yeah, because
That's
from
great.
day one the petty cash goes on Concur itself.
No, that's amazing, and that's great to hear. So probably, something for us to also think how we can productize this, going ahead. And I believe probably getting into my last questions. Uh, I think UPI is booming in India. In August 2024, 2023, I read the number of transactions done on UPI in India was higher than the next three countries taken together, and it was 10 billion. And the value was around 14.75 lakh crores. We could hovering around 300 billion mark in a month. So, and you have done one innovation already. Uh, when you look at UPI, now since, if I just summarize it, if it is my expense or my petty cash expense which I'm doing, which I'm claiming on Concur, what is the next innovation which is coming to your mind, which is what we have been discussing for some time now, and we are trying to see how we do it, how we make it possible. We know we're just there, probably one step ahead. So why don't you tell us about that new innovation? How are you planning to now settle the whole account?
So again, I think I mean all of us know UPI. We use it every day, and we found that a bit unfortunate. I mean, we had done credit card integration with Concur, where for all corporate credit cards, when you spend on the card, directly that expense comes into Concur. So you just have to take that, attach your invoice, and submit it. But credit cards is no longer the common way of doing payment, especially for this is junior employees and so on, right? And most companies don't want to go down the credit card path anymore in India, especially. So clearly UPI is the way. So we reached out to the SAP team and we told them that while credit card is okay, right, we really need to look at more modern payment mechanism. And given that we are doing retail and e-commerce, we are dealing all the time with payment gateways and point of sale solutions and so on. So that experience and our partnerships with payment providers will leverage to bring to the table with SAP. And I think the good part was that the engineering team for Concur sits out of Bangalore, which is also our one of our major locations. So we actually had a session workshop with the engineering team at Concur and along with our payment gateway partner to get them comfortable with introducing UPI as a payment mechanism. And I believe very soon that is likely to come on board is what I'm given to understand. So I think that will be again a major thing, because the moment you have UPI integration, which means that any spend you do off your UPI account, you can push it straight into Concur. You don't have to go and do a manual entry of those expenses into the tool, which you otherwise have to do today. If you don't use card, then it is still a manual entry. But the moment there's integration with UPI, it simplifies a lot of things. And now with this introduction of the RuPay card integration with UPI, again, a RuPay card would function like a UPI, and automatically any RuPay card would get integrated with the solutions once that's ready. So I would say for SAP, the earlier the better. I think it's a big opportunity and will really simplify a lot of things. Once UPI integration comes as part of.
No, I totally believe you, and I think credit card definitely one of the mechanism which, like you rightly said, probably on the middle class front and let's say the upper middle class. Of course, the usage of credit card is more, but when it comes to people still down the line, they are looking at UPI as more convenient method or mechanism to actually do the cost control. But I take your point there. So I think this is what we are striving for, and I believe the solution would be happening soon. So probably this is an end-to-end story of an innovation which will be delivered out of India uh, on a very unique case which has been delivered on Concur. So thank you very much for that story. Before we go probably here, from today, I just wanted to take your thought on what are the key takeaways, or let's say lesson learned, or how do you tell us if somebody is planning to go into an implementation of, let's say, travel and expense, or let's say again a unique case which they would love to discuss with us. What is your advice back to the customers? Your top three things which you would say always keep in mind before even they start the journey, on Concur or let's say SAP as a whole, what are those key takeaways from your side?
So I would say when it comes to when you're thinking about it, the process should not be about implementing a tool, because often people think that there's a tool which you're going to implement and that's it, right? It's always better to think of how you will transform the process digitally, right? The entire process. And if you have that view, then you have your roadmap clear. I mean, you may start with that one tool, but you always know what all you have to do to take it to the point where it gets end-to-end automated, so that you can drive those. And that's partly the approach we took. That when we had before, when we did the business case, or when we decided that what all should be the capability, we had thought that these would be the use cases that we would roll out. Whether employee expenses, then store, then doing a credit card integration. Of course, UPI we had not thought then. That came later, because that was almost 3-4 years back. UPI was not that big.
True.
But essentially making the whole process of payment integration with expense was clearly a focus for us. So we got that integration with the bank done from day one for credit card. So imagine the process end to end. And second is again, often we get caught into these large projects. I mean, certain projects will take 18 months. Like I said, our HANA journey, you can't do much about it. You have to go through that cycle and deliver after 18 months. But when it comes to digital, it is much better to go incremental or agile, as the word we use in IT today. Plan small, deliver, roll out, optimize, then move to next, and that way you start driving the value, delivering the value through the journey, and you're not waiting for everything to get done. So.
No, that's wonderful to hear. So, no, thank you, Praveen, and thank you for coming today as well. We totally loved the conversation, and I think SAP is moving towards that end-to-end journey, and I totally love that idea of thinking end-to-end. So, like Mukesh said in the beginning, it's the whole portfolio of spend under one umbrella is how we are envisaging it, and that's how the intelligent spend management, even took place, within the scheme of things which SAP has. So, looking forward to continue the journey with you and deliver more innovative solutions. Praveen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
And Sindhu.